I should have known the moment he walked in that my life was about to change. The restaurant hummed with its usual Friday night energy, clinking glasses, muted laughter, the soft jazz filtering through expensive speakers. I balanced 3 plates on my arm, weaving between tables with practiced ease, my mind already calculating tips and rent due in 5 days. Then the room shifted. I felt it before I saw him. A sudden quiet rippling outward from the entrance like a stone dropped in still water. Conversations didn't stop exactly, but they faltered, voices dropping to whispers. My manager, Tony, straightened his tie with trembling fingers. That's when I looked up. He stood in the doorway flanked by 2 men in dark suits, but I barely registered them. My entire focus narrowed to him, tall, devastatingly handsome in a way that felt dangerous, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. But it was his eyes that stopped my breath, black, unfathomable, and completely focused on scanning the room with the calm assessment of a predator. Table 12. Tony hissed at me, his voice strained. No. Best service. Don't screw this up. I didn't ask why. The fear in Tony's eyes told me everything I needed to know. My hands steadied the plates as I delivered them to table 7. Bought myself 30 seconds to breathe. When I turned, he was already seated, table 12, the private corner booth with a view of the entire restaurant. His men stood at a distance, silent sentinels. I grabbed a menu and water, forced my feet to move. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. His presence filled the space like smoke, heavy and inescapable. As I approached, those dark eyes lifted to meet mine, and I felt the impact like a physical touch. Good evening. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Can I start you with something to drink? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Not leering, something far more unsettling, like he could read every thought I'd ever had. Whiskey. Neat. His voice was low, textured like expensive velvet over steel. The Macallan 25. I nodded, started to turn. Wait. The single word froze me in place. I looked back, found him still watching me with that unnerving focus. What's your name? Area. The answer slipped out before I could think better of it. We weren't supposed to give our real names, just a cheerful, I'll be taking care of you tonight. But something about his command made lying impossible. Area. He repeated, and the way my name sounded in his mouth sent heat down my spine. Beautiful. I should have walked away then. Should have recognized the danger in the way my heart hammered against my ribs. Instead, I heard myself say, I'll get your drink. The bartender's hands shook as he poured the whiskey. That's Dante Salvatore, he whispered. You know who that is? I didn't, but the terror in his voice painted a clear enough picture. When I returned with the drink, a leather folder sat on the table before him, documents spread out, a gold pen resting on top. He was signing something, his movements precise and controlled. I set the glass down carefully. Thank you, Area. He didn't look up, but somehow I knew he was aware of my every movement. I should have left, but something made me glance at the papers, just a quick look at the letterhead, Salvatore Enterprises, acquisition agreement. My eyes caught on a clause, then another. My law school dreams might have died with my student debt, but I'd gotten far enough to recognize predatory contract language when I saw it. The words left my mouth before my brain could stop them. Excuse me, sir, but this contract is a trap. The pen stopped moving. The silence that followed was absolute. Every sound in the restaurant seemed to fade away. Slowly, Dante Salvatore raised his eyes to mine, and the look in them made my blood run cold. What did you say? His voice was soft. Deadly soft. I should have apologized. Should have laughed it off, stammered something about overstepping. But I'd already jumped off the cliff, might as well fall with dignity. Section 7, subsection 3. I pointed despite the tremor in my hand. The asset transfer clause. You're signing over perpetual rights to any intellectual property developed during the acquisition period. That could include anything your company creates for years after. And here, I indicated another section. The liability waiver is one-sided. You assume all debts, but they retain the ability to claim damages for reputational harm, which isn't defined. They could sue you for anything. The silence stretched. His men had gone rigid, hands moving toward their jackets. Dante held up one finger, barely a movement, but his men froze. He picked up the contract, those dark eyes scanning the sections I'd indicated. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. When he looked back at me, something had shifted in his expression. Still dangerous, but now, intrigue. You read contracts in your spare time. The question held the edge of dark amusement. I was in law school. Before, I trailed off. He didn't need my life story. Before reality got expensive. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Sit down, Area. I'm working. Sit. Not a request. My legs obeyed before my mind could protest, sliding into the booth across from him. This close, I could smell his cologne, sandalwood, and something darker, more primal. He pushed the contract toward me. Read it. All of it. Tell me what else I've missed. Sir, I can't. Dante. His eyes locked on mine. My name is Dante, and you just saved me from signing away $20 million. The least you can do is finish what you started. My hands were shaking as I pulled the papers closer. I could feel Tony's panic stare from across the restaurant, could sense this was a terrible idea, but I was already drowning in those fathomless dark eyes. I started reading, and Danny Salvatore leaned back in his seat, sipping his whiskey and watching me with the focused intensity of a man who'd just found something unexpected. Something he wanted. And I realized with terrifying clarity that my simple life had just ended. I found 3 more traps buried in the contract. My finger traced the clauses as I explained them, hyper-aware of Dante's gaze burning into me. Each time I pointed out another manipulation, his expression darkened, not at me, but at the papers between us. Whoever had drafted this agreement had assumed he wouldn't read the fine print. They'd underestimated him. Or maybe they'd just never expected a waitress to interrupt. Here. I indicated the final section. The termination clause requires 6 months written notice, but the counter-party can exit with 48 hours email notification. You'd be locked in while they could walk away the moment it stopped serving them. Dante's fingers drummed once against the table, a controlled, deliberate sound. Then he pulled out his phone, pressed a single button. Cancel the Meridian deal. His voice was ice, every term. Have legal draft a complete reversal by Monday. And tell Richard Chen that if he ever presents me with a contract like this again, we'll have a very different kind of conversation. He ended the call without waiting for a response. My heart hammered. That phone call had just killed a multi-million-dollar deal. Because of me. Because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. I started to stay. That single word again, wrapping around me like a command my body couldn't refuse. We're not finished. Sir Dante, I need to get back to work. My manager, as if summoned, Tony appeared at the table, his face pale and sweating. Mr. Salvatore, I apologize if Aria has been bothering you. I can have another server. She stays. Danny didn't even look at him. Bring her dinner. Whatever she wants. And tell your staff she's occupied for the rest of the evening. But her tables. Danny's eyes finally shifted to Tony, and my manager actually stepped back. No problem at all, Mr. Salvatore. Tony vanished like smoke. I stared at the man across from me, fear and something dangerously close to exhilaration warring in my chest. You can't just. I can. He leaned forward, and suddenly the space between us felt charged. Tell me, Aria. What happened? Why is someone who can dissect corporate contracts in minutes working in a restaurant? Student loans. Life bad luck. I tried to keep my voice steady. Not everyone gets to finish what they start. What if I told you that you could? I blinked. Law school. Finish your degree. He said it like he was discussing the weather, not offering to change my entire life. I'll cover it, tuition, expenses, whatever you need. The world tilted? Why would you do that? Because you just saved me $20 million and potentially years of legal battles. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile on a less dangerous man. Consider it a finder's fee. It was too much, too easy. Too good to be true. What's the catch? This time he definitely smiled, and it was devastating, dark and knowing, and infinitely compelling. Smart girl. There's always a catch. He pulled a business card from his jacket, slid it across the table. Salvatore Enterprises embossed in silver. A phone number. Nothing else. Work for me. My company handles complex acquisitions, mergers, international deals. I need someone who can spot traps, who thinks like a lawyer but hasn't been corrupted by the system yet. Someone with instincts. You don't know me. I could be. I'm an excellent judge of character, Aria. His eyes held mine. I know ambition when I see it. I know hunger. You want more than this. He gestured at the restaurant. And I'm offering you a way out. Everything in me screamed that this was dangerous. That men like Dante Salvatore didn't make offers without expecting something in return. That the darkness in his eyes promised complications I couldn't imagine. But God help me, I wanted to say yes. What would I be doing exactly? Contract review, legal research, due diligence on acquisitions. He paused. You'd be working directly for me. Close access, long hours. Complete discretion required. Discretion about what? About everything you see, everything you hear, everyone you meet. His voice dropped lower. My business requires absolute loyalty, absolute trust. Can you give me that? The question felt weighted with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Around us, the restaurant continued its evening rhythm, but we existed in a bubble of tension and possibility. I don't even know you, I whispered. No, agreed. Heed you will. A server appeared with a plate, seared salmon, asparagus, risotto. Food I couldn't normally afford. I hadn't even ordered, but somehow they knew. Dante gestured for me to eat. Think about it while you have dinner. But Aria. He waited until I met his eyes again. I don't make offers twice. You walk away from this table and the door closes. Permanently. I picked up my fork with trembling hands, my mind racing. This was insane. I was a waitress with unfinished law school credits and $70,000 in debt. He was what? A businessman. The fear in Tony's eyes suggested something darker. The way his men watched the room like trained predators. The easy command in his voice. I should run. What kind of business are you really in? The question escaped before I could stop it. Dante took a slow sip of his whiskey, considering. When he set the glass down, his expression was unreadable. The kind where you need to know when to ask questions, and when to simply trust. He leaned back. I'm in the business of power, Aria. Acquiring it, wielding it, protecting it. Everything else is just details. Not a denial. Not quite an admission. The space between words where truth hid. My phone buzzed, a text from my roommate reminding me rent was due. Another from the hospital about my mother's outstanding bills. Reality pressing in from all sides. I looked up at the man who was offering me an escape, and found him watching me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I'll do it," I heard myself say. "I'll work for you." His smile was slow, satisfied, and absolutely predatory. "Good." He pulled out another document, slid it across with a pen. "Then sign this." I looked down at the paper. Employment contract, Salvatore Enterprises, and I realized with a sinking feeling that I just agreed to terms I hadn't read. The look in Dante's eyes told me he knew it too. The contract was surprisingly straightforward. I read it 3 times in the back of Dante's car, a sleek black Mercedes with leather seats that probably cost more than my entire apartment. No hidden clauses, no trap language. Just a generous salary that made my hands shake, benefits that seemed too good to be real, and one simple requirement: complete confidentiality regarding all business matters. Satisfied, Dante asked from beside me, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. "Why is this one clean?" I looked up at him. The other contract was full of traps, because that one was designed to test someone else's greed. This one, his dark eyes met mine, is designed to keep you. The implication in those words sent heat through my chest. I signed before I could overthink it. Where are we going? I'd assumed he'd drop me home, but we'd been driving for 20 minutes into a part of the city where buildings grew taller and lights glowed brighter. My office. "If you're working for me, you need to understand the world you're entering." He glanced at his watch. "Midnight. Consider this orientation." The car pulled up to a high rise of gleaming glass and steel. Salvatore Enterprises stretched across the top in silver letters. Dante's men emerged first, scanning the quiet street before opening our door. Inside, the lobby was all marble and modern art, empty except for a night security guard who straightened immediately at Dante's entrance. "Mr. Salvatore." "Good evening, sir." Dante nodded, guided me toward a private elevator with a hand at the small of my back. The casual touch felt anything but casual, proprietary claiming. The doors closed, sealing us in. "Nervous?" he asked. "Should I be?" "Probably." The ghost of a smile touched his lips as the elevator climbed. "But I like that you came anyway." The top floor opened into an office that belonged in a magazine spread floor. Ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city. Sleek furniture, a bar that probably held bottles worth more than my car. But my attention caught on the people waiting. 4 men, all in expensive suits, all radiating the same predatory awareness as Dante's guards. They stood as we entered, their expressions ranging from curious to coldly assessing. "Gentlemen." Dante's voice carried absolute authority. "This is Aria Chen. She'll be joining our legal review team, reporting directly to me." Aria, my inner circle. He introduced them. Rapid fire Marco, his head of security, built like a wall and watching me with suspicion. Luca, his financial officer, sharp-eyed and calculating. Vincent, operations, who smiled but his eyes stayed cold. And Julian, the youngest, who handled acquisitions, whatever that meant. "She's the one who caught the Meridian traps?" Luca asked, studying me with new interest. "In under 10 minutes. Dante moved to the bar, poured himself another whiskey, while working her dinner shift. "Impressive." Vincent's smile widened, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Or lucky, one to test her." Dante's voice carried an edge. "Marco, give her the Castellano file." Marco's jaw tightened, but he pulled a folder from a briefcase, tossed it onto the glass coffee table. "This is sensitive. She signed the NDA, she's one of us now." Dante's words felt like a brand. "Aria, read it. Tell us what you see." I picked up the folder with hands I willed steady. Every instinct screamed this was a test, not just of my skills, but of whether I belonged in this room with these dangerous men. The contract inside made my blood run cold. It was a property acquisition agreement, but the property in question was a shipping company. The language was clean on the surface, but buried deep were clauses about discreet cargo handling and non-disclosure of manifest contents. Transfer of assets included existing relationships and distribution networks. This wasn't just business, it's a front. A shipping company. This contract isn't about moving legitimate goods. The room went silent. Marco's hand had moved to his jacket. Luca had gone very still. Even Julian's easy smile had vanished. But Dante was watching me with an expression of dark satisfaction. "Keep going," he said softly. "The distribution networks mentioned in Section 12, those aren't standard shipping routes. The liability protections are too specific, too detailed about regulatory complications and international enforcement issues." I met his eyes. "You're not buying a shipping company. You're buying access to smuggling routes." "Jesus Christ." Vincent breathed. "She actually told you." Dante's voice cut through the tension. "Instincts." Marco stepped forward. "Boss, she knows too much. This is a mistake." "No." Dante's single word stopped him. "This is exactly what I needed. Someone who can see what others miss. Someone who understands the game. Someone who could ruin us." Marco countered. Dante moved to me then, and everyone else in the room faded. He stood close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. "Are you going to ruin me, Aria?" His voice was soft, dangerous, intimate. My heart hammered against my ribs. "I signed your contract. I keep my promises. Even when you know what I am, I don't know what you are." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I know you're powerful. I know you're dangerous. I know that contract is illegal in at least 6 ways. I paused. And I know you're giving me a choice right now. Walk away, or stay and understand exactly what working for you means. Something flickered in his dark eyes, approval perhaps, or satisfaction. Smart girl. He stepped back, addressed the room. She stays. Anyone have a problem with that takes it up with me. Directly. No one spoke. Dante turned back to me. Welcome to the family area. Your real education starts now. And I realized that by walking through that elevator door, I hadn't just accepted a job. I'd stepped into a world where power was currency. Danger was constant. And the devastatingly handsome man watching me like I was something precious and breakable was the king of it all. There was no going back. Dante sent me home at 3 in the morning in his car, with Marco as my silent, disapproving driver and a phone that hadn't existed 2 hours ago, direct line to me. Dante had said, programming his number himself. 24 hours. You need anything, you call. Now, lying in my cramped apartment with my roommate's snoring filtering through the thin walls, I stared at that phone like it might explode. What had I done? The money had already hit my account, a signing bonus that made my eyes water. Enough to pay rent for 6 months, enough to make a dent in my mother's medical bills, enough to prove this was horrifyingly real. My phone buzzed. A text from Dante's sleep well area. Tomorrow. Everything changes. I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, a package arrived. Designer clothes in my exact size, expensive and professional. A note in sharp, masculine handwriting dressed the part. By noon, I was back in that elevator, wearing a charcoal dress that hugged my curves and heels that made me 3 inches taller. The woman in the mirror looked powerful, polished. Nothing like the waitress who'd served drinks 12 hours ago. Dante's assistant, a severe woman named Patricia who looked at me like I was a particularly interesting insect, led me to an office 3 doors from Dante's. Glass walls overlooking the city, a desk with 3 monitors and stacks of files waiting. Monsieur, Salvatore wants you to review these by end of day. Patricia's tone suggested she didn't believe I could. Flag anything problematic. He'll brief you at 6. Then she was gone, and I was alone with enough legal documents to drown in. I rolled up my sleeves and started reading. 6 hours later, my eyes burned and my head throbbed. But I'd found issues in 7 of the 12 contracts. Some minor, some catastrophic. I was documenting the last one when my office door opened. Dante filled the doorway, having shed his jacket, his white shirt rolled to his elbows, revealing muscled forearms. He looked like sin and power wrapped in expensive fabric. Tell me. He closed the door, moved to my desk with that predatory grace. I walked him through each contract, watching his expression darken with every trap I'd uncovered. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. You found more than my entire legal team caught in a month. His voice held something dangerous and impressed. Some of these could have destroyed deals we've been building for years. Your legal team isn't looking for traps, I said carefully. They're looking for compliance. There's a difference. And you look for traps because I grew up watching my father get destroyed by fine print. Because I learned that the devil is always in the details. I met his eyes. Because powerful people count on others not paying attention. Dante smiled, a real smile this time, not the calculated ones I'd seen before. It transformed his face, made him devastating. Come with me. He turned toward the door. I told you. Your real education starts now. 20 minutes later, we walked into a private club that didn't advertise, didn't have a sign, just an unmarked door and a guard who stepped aside the moment he saw Dante. Inside was old money and older power, leather chairs, cigar smoke, men in suits who stopped their conversations as we passed. Dante's hand found the small of my back again, guiding me through the room to a private booth in the back. 3 men waited. Older than Dante, harder, with eyes that had seen things I couldn't imagine. Gentlemen. Dante's voice was smooth as silk. This is Aria Chen, my new legal consultant. Aria, meet the Castellano brothers, Dominic, Anthony, and Roberto. We're finalizing the shipping acquisition tonight. My blood froze. The same contract I dissected last night, the smuggling operation I'd identified. Dominic Castellano, the eldest, studied me with sharp eyes. You brought a woman to this meeting, Salvatore. I brought the woman who found every trap in your contract. Dante's voice was cold. The same woman who's gonna ensure our agreement is actually equitable. The tension ratcheted up instantly. We agreed on terms. Anthony growled. We agreed on a framework, now we negotiate the details. Dante gestured for me to sit and I did, my heart hammering. Aria explained Section 12. This was insane. This was a test. This was Dante throwing me into deep water to see if I could swim. I pulled out my phone, brought up my notes, and looked into the faces of 3 men who could probably have me killed with a phone call. The distribution network language is too vague. I said, proud, my voice didn't shake. It grants Mr. Salvatore access to your existing relationships and channels, but doesn't specify which ones, or limit his use of them. You could potentially lose exclusive access to routes you've spent years developing. Dominic's eyes narrowed. She's sharp, she is, Dante agreed. Which is why we're going to rewrite Section 12 to specify exactly which routes transfer, with geographic and temporal limitations. You maintain exclusivity in South America. I get exclusive access to Eastern European channels. We share the Mediterranean with a revenue split 60-40, my favor. That's not what we discussed. Roberto snapped. No, what we discussed was you trying to take advantage of me with deliberately vague language. Dante's voice dropped to something lethal. Now we discuss a fair deal, or we discuss why you thought I wouldn't notice. The silence stretched. I could feel violence hovering just below the surface. Then Dominic laughed, a harsh, sharp sound. I like her. All right, Salvatore, we'll play it your way. But the split is 55-45, done. Dante extended his hand. They shook, and just like that, millions of dollars in illegal trade routes changed hands. As we left an hour later, contract redrafted and signed. Dante's hand caught my elbow, pulled me into a quiet alcove. You did well. His dark eyes burned into mine. But you looked terrified. I was terrified. Those men would have respected weakness even less than they respected your intelligence. He stepped closer, crowding my space. In this world, area fear is natural. Showing it is death. And if I can't hide it. His hand came up, fingers brushing my jaw in a touch that sent electricity down my spine. Then you learn. Because the alternative is unacceptable. Why? The word came out breathless. Why do you care if I survive this? His eyes searched mine, and for a moment I saw something underneath the power and danger, something almost vulnerable. Because, he said softly, you're mine now. And I protect what's mine. Then he was gone, walking toward the exit, leaving me trembling against the wall. I just helped negotiate a criminal enterprise. And God help me, I'd never felt more alive. 3 weeks. That's how long it took for my old life to feel like a dream. I moved through Dante's world now with growing confidence, sitting in on meetings with men whose names I'd seen in Forbes and FBI wanted lists, dissecting contracts worth millions, learning the delicate dance of legal language and implied threats. And every day, I felt Dante's eyes on me. He was everywhere and nowhere, appearing in my office doorway with coffee that cost more than my old hourly wage, his hand finding the small of my back as we entered rooms full of dangerous men, his voice low in my ear translating the subtext I was still learning to read. Vincent doesn't trust you yet, he'd whisper. Marco thinks you're a liability. Prove them wrong. I did. Contract by contract, negotiation by negotiation. I proved I belonged. But late at night, alone in the luxury apartment Dante had insisted I move into, I wondered what price I'd eventually pay for this power. The answer came on a Tuesday. We have a problem. Dante's voice was ice as he entered my office, closing the door behind him. The Meridian deal, the one you saved me from. Richard Chen isn't accepting the cancellation. He has to. The termination clause. Doesn't matter when he has blackmail material. Dante tossed a folder on my desk. Clodo's documents. Evidence of deals that can't see daylight. My hands shook as I opened it. Photos of Dante meeting with known criminals. Financial records showing money moving through shell companies. Shipping manifests for cargo that shouldn't exist. This could destroy you, I whispered. It could destroy both of us. His dark eyes held mine. Your signature is on some of those documents now, Area. Those contracts you've been reviewing, the deals you've helped structure, you're implicated in all of it. The world tilted. You used me. I gave you a choice. You chose power over safety. He moved closer. Did you really think this world came without consequences? Rage and fear warred in my chest. What do you want from me? I want you to fix this. His voice was soft, dangerous. Richard Chen thinks he holds all the cards. Find me leverage. Something that makes him burn those files and walk away grateful to still be breathing. I'm not, I don't. You're a lawyer, Area. Think like one. He turned toward the door, paused. You have 48 hours. After that, we both go down. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Just pulled every record I could find on Richard Chen, following paper trails and shell companies through the night. Marco brought me coffee at 3 a.m., his expression less hostile than usual. Boss believes in you. Doesn't do that often. He's using me to save his own skin. Yeah. Marco's smile was grim, but he's also making sure if you go down he goes with you. That's loyalty in our world. 27 hours in, I found it. Hidden in property records and offshore accounts, buried under 3 layers of corporate structures, Richard Chen's second family. A wife and 2 children in Singapore that his American family knew nothing about. More than infidelity, bigamy, with financial fraud implications that could unravel his entire empire. I called Dante at 4 a.m. I have it. He arrived 30 minutes later, still in yesterday's clothes, exhaustion lining his face. When he read my findings, something fierce and proud flashed in his eyes. You're brilliant. His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheek. Absolutely brilliant. The touch burned. No what? No, we show him what happens when you threaten a Salvatore. The meeting happened in a warehouse, neutral ground, both sides with armed men in shadows. Richard Chen looked confident until Dante slid the folder across. I watched his face go, wait. Those files you have, destroy them. Dante's voice was conversational. Or your wife in California learns about your wife in Singapore. Your board learns about the embezzlement you've been using to maintain 2 households. The FBI learns about your creative accounting. You can't. And I will. Dante leaned back. Unless we walk away from this room with an understanding. You tried to trap me. My associate, his eyes flicked to me, proved you failed. We're even. Stay even and your secrets stay buried. Richard's hatred was palpable, but so was his fear. This isn't over, Salvatore. Yes, Dante said softly. It is. We walked out into the night, leaving Richard Chen to his rage and his ruined leverage. In the car, Dante pulled me against him, the first time he'd fully touched me, and my body ignited. You saved us both tonight. I saved myself. You made sure of that when you implicated me. I should pull away, but I couldn't. Les. His breath was warm against my temple. I needed you bound to me, Area. Needed you to understand there's no walking away from this. From me. That's manipulative and controlling and everything I warned you I was. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my face up. I don't pretend to be noble. But I am honest about what I want. What do you want? His eyes dropped to my lips, and the hunger there stole my breath. Everything. Your brilliance, your loyalty, your trust. His thumb traced my lower lip. You? I should say no. Should recognize the danger in wanting a man who deliberately trapped me in his world. But when his lips met mine, demanding and possessive and devastatingly thorough, I kissed him back with 3 weeks of tension and fear and desire. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante's smile was dark triumph. Mine. He whispered against my lips, and despite everything, the danger, the manipulation, the darkness I was drowning in, I couldn't bring myself to disagree. I woke in Dante's bed with morning light streaming through floor, tip-ceiling windows and his arm heavy across my waist. We'd crossed a line last night, multiple lines, and my body still hummed with the memory of his hands, his mouth, the way he'd taken me apart with a control that was both terrifying and intoxicating. You're thinking too loud. His voice was rough with sleep, his lips brushing my shoulder. I'm thinking I just slept with my boss, who's also a criminal, and who manipulated me into being complicit in said crimes. Accurate assessment. I felt his smile against my skin. Regrets. I should say yes. Should gather my clothes and whatever remained of my dignity and run. Instead, I turned in his arms, met those dark eyes. Ask me again in a week. His laugh was low and genuine. Fair enough. Then his phone shattered the moment, a sharp, demanding ring that had him pulling away instantly. Salvatore. His voice shifted. Became the dangerous man who ran an empire. When? A pause. Keep them there. I'm coming. He was out of bed, dressing with efficiency that suggested this was routine. Problem. One of our shipments was intercepted. Police have 3 of my men. He was already moving toward the door. Stay here. Marco will take you to the office. Wet. But he was gone, and I was alone in his penthouse, tangled in sheets that smelled like him, reality crashing back. I went to the office despite every instinct screaming to run. Patricia handed me a new stack of contracts without comment, though her eyes held knowledge that made my face burn. I buried myself in work, trying not to think about Dante in police interrogation rooms, about the men in holding cells, about how quickly this could all collapse. Area Chen. I looked up to find a man I didn't recognize in my doorway. Mid-40s, sharp suit, federal agent written all over him. My blood ran cold. Special Agent Morrison, FBI. He showed credentials. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your employer. Every legal instinct I had screamed that I should demand a lawyer, but running would look guilty, and I needed to know what they knew. Of course. How can I help? He sat uninvited, studying me with eyes that missed nothing. You've been working for Dante Salvatore for, what, almost a month now? Yes. Interesting career change. Law school dropout to waitress to corporate lawyer. He smiled, but it was all calculation. That's quite a leap. Mr. Salvatore recognized my skills and offered me an opportunity. I'm sure he did. Morrison pulled out a photo, me and Dante entering the warehouse last night. Midnight meetings in industrial districts. That's not standard corporate work, Miss Chen. My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. I don't know what you think that photo shows, Agent Morrison, but I'm happy to have my attorney present if you'd like to continue this conversation officially. Not necessary. Yet, he stood. I'm just trying to understand who you are, Ms. Chen. Are you a victim Salvatore is using? Or are you a willing participant in his operations? I review contracts for a legitimate business. Do you? He dropped another photo, me at the meeting with the Castellano brothers. Because it looks like you're helping facilitate organized crime. And when this all comes crashing down, and it will, I'd hate to see a smart young woman like you go to prison, because she was too proud or too scared to ask for help. He placed a card on my desk. When you're ready to talk, really talk, call me. I can protect you, Miss Chen. But only if you cooperate before it's too late. Then he was gone, leaving me shaking and nauseous. Dante found me still sitting there 2 hours later, Morrison's card in my trembling hand. Marco told me. His voice was tight. What did you say? Nothing, I asked for a lawyer. I looked up at him. Dante, they have photos. They know about the Castellanos about. They know nothing that will stick in court. He took the card, tore it in half. They're fishing. Trying to scare you into betraying me. What if I should? The words escaped before I could stop them. What if Morrison's right, and I'm just helping you commit crimes until we both end up in prison? Dante went very still. Is that what you think? I don't know what to think anymore. I stood paced. 3 weeks ago I was a waitress. Now I'm facilitating shipping deals that are probably moving illegal cargo, meeting with mob families, sleeping with a man who admits to being a criminal. The FBI is investigating us, and I'm so far past the line I can't even see it anymore. You knew what this was. His voice was hard now, controlled. I never lied to you about who I am. No, you just made sure I was too implicated to walk away? Because I needed you. The words exploded from him. Because for the first time in 10 years, I found someone who could actually see the traps, who could think 3 steps ahead, who was brilliant and brave and… He stopped, jaw tight. You want out, fine, I'll give you enough money to disappear. New identity, new life. But you don't get to stand there and pretend you're an innocent victim when you signed every contract, knowing exactly what you were choosing. The silence between us was jagged with anger and hurt and truths neither of us wanted to face. I didn't choose this. I whispered. You gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. Everyone has a choice, Arya. His eyes were dark with something that looked like pain. You just chose ambition and power over safety. Don't blame me for what you wanted. He walked out, leaving me alone with Morrison's torn card and the devastating realization that he was right. I had chosen this. Every step, every contract, every compromised piece of my soul, I'd chosen it. And I still wasn't sure if I'd choose differently. I didn't see Dante for 3 days. Marco delivered assignments. Patricia fielded my questions. But Dante himself stayed away, a pointed absence that felt like punishment and protection in equal measure. The FBI didn't return, but Morrison's warning haunted me. When this all comes crashing down, and it will, on the 3rd night Vincent appeared at my apartment door. Boss needs you. Now. Something in his face made fear spike in my chest. What happened? Just come. The drive was silent, tense. We didn't go to the office or down his penthouse. Instead, we pulled up to a private medical facility I'd never seen, hidden behind gates and guards. Vincent led me inside, through sterile hallways, to a room where Marco stood outside looking grim. He won't let the doctors touch him until he sees you, Marco said. I pushed through the door and stopped dead. Dante sat on the exam table, his white shirt soaked with blood, a gash across his ribs still bleeding freely. His face was bruised, knuckles torn, but his eyes, when they met mine, burned with fierce, dark intensity. You're hurt. My voice came out strangled. Noticed that, did you? His attempt at humor fell flat. Arya, what happened? I moved closer despite myself, hands hovering over him, afraid to touch and make it worse. The shipment that was intercepted wasn't police, was a rival family making a move. They thought they could take my territory. His jaw tightened. They were wrong. You need a doctor. I need you to listen. He caught my hand, pulled me between his legs despite the blood and pain. Morrison came to you because they're building a case. Not against me, against the Castellanos. They think I'm the way in. Are you? If I cooperate, yes, they've offered immunity, protection, everything. His eyes held mine, in exchange for testimony that would destroy half the families in this city. My breath caught. You're considering it. No. His hand came up, cupped my face despite the blood on his fingers. But they think I am, which means we're all in danger. The Castellanos, everyone I'm connected to. They'll start wondering if I've turned. Tonight's attack was just the beginning. Then why not take the deal? Get out of this life while you can. Because snitches don't survive in my world, Arya. I take that deal, I'm dead within a week. Everyone I care about becomes a target. His thumb brushed my cheek. Including you. The weight of it settled on my shoulders. So what do? We prove loyalty. We make moves that show I'm not cooperating with the feds. We go deeper, not out. He searched my face. And I need to know if you're with me. Because what comes next, there's no middle ground. Dante. I'm gonna start a war. Arya. His voice was quiet, deadly. I'm going to consolidate power. Eliminate threats, show every family in this city that I'm not weak and I'm not turning. It's gonna be violent. It's gonna be dangerous. And you're going to be right beside me, helping me plan every move. I should run. Should call Morrison, take witness protection, get as far from this as possible. But looking at Dante, blood-soaked and dangerous, and offering me the truth instead of pretty lies, I couldn't. I'm with you, I heard myself say. Whatever comes. His smile was brief, pained, relieved. Then help me convince the doctor to patch me up. We have work to do. The war started 48 hours later. 3 of the Castellano family's businesses burned simultaneously. No casualties. Dante wasn't interested in body counts, just messages. By dawn, everyone knew Salvatore wasn't backing down. I sat in on the meeting where he planned it all, watched him move pieces on a chessboard of territory and loyalty and blood. His mind was brilliant and terrifying, calculating every response, every consequence. The Castellanos will retaliate, Luca warned. Let them. Dante's voice was cold. We'll be ready. They were. When the retaliation came, a drive-by shooting at one of Dante's clubs, his men were prepared. Nobody died. 3 of the attackers were captured. I didn't ask what happened to them. Some knowledge was too heavy to carry, but I felt the shift. Felt myself becoming complicit not just in contracts and meetings, but in violence. In war, late that night, Dante found me on the penthouse balcony, staring at the city lights and wondering who I'd become, having second thoughts. He joined me at the railing, close but not touching. I'm an accessory to arson, maybe to murder. 3 months ago I was worried about rent. 3 months ago you were dying slowly in a life that would never give you what you deserved. His voice was quiet. At least now you're alive enough to feel guilty. That's not comfort. I don't deal in comfort area. I deal in truth. He finally turned to me. You want me to tell you this is all gonna be fine? That we're the good guys? I can't. We're not. But we're honest about what we are, and we protect what's ours, And what am I? The question tore out of me. Your lawyer. Your accomplice. You're mine. He cut through my spiral with one word. You're mine. My partner, my conscience, my... He stopped, something flickering across his face. The only person who looks at me and sees a man, not just a monster. My heart cracked at the vulnerability in his voice. Dante, I love you? The words hit like bullets. I'm in love with you, and it's terrifying because love is weakness in my world. It makes you a target. Makes you my greatest vulnerability. His hands framed my face. But I can't stop. Can't let you go. Even though keeping you might destroy us both. Tears burned my eyes. You can't love me. You barely know me. I know you saved me from a trap without knowing me. I know you stayed when anyone sane would run. I know you look at my world and see strategy instead of just violence. I know, his voice cracked, that you're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm gonna ruin you. Then don't. I grabbed his shirt, pulled him closer. Don't ruin me. Let me choose to stay. Let me choose you with my eyes open. His kiss was desperate, almost broken, tasting like blood and smoke and futures we might not survive. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. This is your last chance to run area. After tonight, there's no going back. I thought of Morrison's card, of safety and normalcy and the life I could have had. Then I looked at the man in front of me, dangerous and damaged and offering me dark truth instead of comfortable lies. I'm not running, I whispered, and sealed both our fates. Morrison came for me on a Wednesday morning. Not to my apartment or the office, he was smarter than that. He waited until I was alone, walking to my car after a late meeting, and then he was just there, stepping from the shadows like a ghost. "Mns, we need to talk." My hand went to my phone, but he shook his head. "This is off the record. Just you and me." Every instinct screamed trap. "I have nothing to say without my attorney, even if I tell you Dante Salvatore is about to get you killed." He stepped closer, and I saw genuine concern in his eyes. "I know about the Castellano war. I know you've been helping him plan strategic hits, and I know that right now. There's a contract on your head worth $500,000. The world tilted. "What? The Castellanos think you're his strategist, which you are. They think removing you weakens him, which it does. So they put out a hit." He showed me his phone, a message from an informant, my photo, the price. "You have maybe 48 hours before every mercenary in the city is hunting you." My legs nearly gave out. Morrison caught my elbow. "Come with me now, protective custody. We can have you in a safe house within the hour." His voice was urgent. "You testify against Salvatore, we can end this war, and you get to live. Stay with him and you're a dead woman walking." Dant wouldn't. Dante Salvatore has survived this long by being ruthless, not loyal. You think you're special. You think he won't sacrifice you if it means winning. Morrison's grip tightened. He's using you, area. A brilliant mind to exploit and a body to warm his bed. When you become a liability, he'll cut you loose. Or get you killed. You don't know him. I know men like him. I've been investigating organized crime for 15 years, and they all follow the same pattern. They seduce, they manipulate, they trap smart women in situations where there's no good choice. His voice softened. You're not the first bright young lawyer to fall for a dangerous man. But if you're smart, you'll be one of the few who survives. My phone buzzed. "Dante, where are you?" "He's probably tracking your location right now," Morrison said. "Controlling every move you make while pretending it's protection. Is that really the life you want?" I stared at my phone, at Dante's name on the screen, and felt everything crashing down. 2 months ago I had nothing. Now I had power, money, purpose, and a death sentence. "I need time to think." "You don't have time." Morrison pressed a burner phone into my hand. "This has one number programmed, mine. When you're ready to save your own life, call it. But don't wait too long. The first assassin is already in the city." Then he was gone, and I was alone in a parking garage, holding 2 phones and feeling like I was drowning. I went back to Dante's penthouse in a daze. He was waiting in the living room with Marco, Vincent, and Luca, a war council in progress. They all looked up as I entered. "Where the hell were you?" Dante's voice was sharp. "You didn't answer." Morrison stopped me in the parking garage. The room erupted. "Did he touch you?" Marco was already moving. "Did he threaten?" "He told me there's a hit on me." I cut through the chaos. The Castellanos. $500,000. Silence fell like a hammer. Dante's face went completely blank. The expression I'd learned meant he was absolutely furious and controlling it with iron will. "Marco, call our contacts. I want to know who took the contract." His voice was ice. "Luca, triple security on Aria's apartment and the office." "Vincent, reach out to the Castellano underboss. This crosses a line." "Dante," I started. Not now, he was already moving, pulling out his phone. "We're going into lockdown protocol. Aria stays in the penthouse 24-hour guard rotation. You can't just lock me up." "The fuck I can't!" The words exploded from him, and suddenly he was in my space, hands on my shoulders. "They put a price on your head because you're mine. Because you're important to me. So yes, I'm locking you up where I know you're safe until I can end this." "How?" "By starting an all-out war. By getting more people killed." My voice cracked. "Morrison's right, being with you is going to get me killed." Pain flashed across his face. "Is that what he told you?" "He told me I have 48 hours. He offered protective custody, witness protection." I met his eyes. He offered me a way out. The silence stretched, broken only by our harsh breathing and the distant sound of the city below. And Dante's voice was barely above a whisper. What did you say? This was it. The moment of truth. I could reach for the burner phone in my pocket, make the call, disappear into federal protection and a safe, ordinary life. Or I could stay with the man who'd given me power and purpose and a love that felt like burning alive. I said I needed to think. Something shattered in his expression. Get out. What? Everyone out. Now, he was still staring at me, but the command sent Marco, Vincent, and Luca scrambling for the door. When we were alone, Dante crossed to the bar, poured whiskey with shaking hands. Do you love me? The question was quiet, broken. That's not fair. Doe. You love me. He drained the glass, turned to face me. Because if you don't, then Morrison's right. You should take the deal. Get away from this life from me, before it destroys you. Dante. But if you do, his voice cracked. If there's any part of you that loves me even a fraction of how much I love you, then you stay. You trust that I will burn this city to the ground before I let anyone touch you. You trust that you're not just another asset to me, you're everything. Tears streamed down my face. I'm scared. Good. Fear keeps you smart. He moved to me, hands gentle on my face. But don't let fear make you run from something real. From us. They're gonna kill me. No. His eyes burn with absolute certainty. They're gonna try. And they're going to fail. Because I'm Danny Salvatore, and no one takes what's mine in lives. I should argue. Should point out that arrogance wouldn't stop bullets. Instead, I kissed him, desperate and afraid, and choosing him anyway. When we broke apart, I pulled out Morrison's burner phone and threw it off the balcony. I'm staying. I whispered. God help me, I'm staying. Dante's smile was fierce and grateful and terrifying. Then let's show them exactly what happens when they threaten a Salvatore's queen. The first assassin came at dawn. I woke to gunfire and Dante's body covering mine, his weight pressing me into the mattress as bullets shattered the penthouse windows. Stay down. His voice was commanding, controlled despite the chaos. More gunshots, but these were outgoing. Marco and the security team returning fire. Then silence, broken by shouted confirmations. Clear. Dante finally moved, checking me for injuries with hands that trembled slightly. You okay? I nodded, unable to speak past the terror choking me. He kissed my forehead, then was gone, pulling on pants, grabbing a gun from somewhere I'd never noticed, transforming from lover to warrior in seconds. I followed on shaking legs, found Marco and 3 guards standing over a body on the balcony. The dead man had a rifle, professional gear, and cold eyes staring at nothing. Perimeter team caught him setting up, Marco reported. 2 others ran when we engaged. We're tracking them now. Dante's face was stone. Find them. I want to know who sent them, who they're working with, and what they know. He turned to me. This is what I am, Area. This is what staying with me means. I looked at the body, at the blood, at the life I'd chosen. I know. By noon, we had answers. The assassins weren't Castellano, they were freelance hired through an intermediary. But Luca's financial tracking found the money trail, and it led somewhere unexpected. Morrison. Luca spread the documents across Dante's desk. The FBI authorized the payment through a shell company. They set up the hit. The revelation hit like a physical blow. The FBI tried to have me killed. Not killed. Dante's voice was tight, scared. This was supposed to be a failed attempt. Close enough to terrify you, controlled enough that you'd survive and run straight to Morrison for protection. That's insane. That's how the feds operate when they want leverage. Vincent's voice was bitter. They manufacture the crisis, then offer to save you from it. Rage burned through my fear. Morrison had looked me in the eye, pretended to care about my safety, all while orchestrating an attack designed to manipulate me. What do we do? Dante's smile was dangerous. Would turn their game against them. The plan was audacious and terrifying. I would call Morrison, agree to cooperate, let him think his manipulation had worked. We're a wire to my meetings with Dante. Feed him carefully constructed evidence that wouldn't actually incriminate anyone but would look legitimate. Meanwhile, Dante's tech people would hack the FBI's systems, find evidence of Morrison's unauthorized operation. If this works, Dante explained, Morrison gets burned, the case against us collapses, and the Castellanos see I'm not cooperating with the feds. And if it doesn't work, then we both go to prison, or we both die running. He pulled me close. Your choice. I won't force this on you. I thought about Morrison's lies about being used and manipulated by both sides of this war. Let's burn him. The wire felt like ice against my skin as I sat across from Morrison 2 days later. I'm ready to talk, I said, my voice perfectly calibrated to sound scared and defeated. But I need guarantees. Full immunity, protection, everything in writing. Morrison's satisfaction was obvious. Smart choice, Miss Chen. You're gonna save a lot of lives by doing this. Liar. Over the next week, I fed him breadcrumbs. Conversations with Dante that sounded incriminating, but were actually meaningless. Documents that looked important but contained nothing actionable. Dante and I performed our roles perfectly, arguing in monitored locations about shipments that didn't exist, discussing family business that was pure fiction. Meanwhile, Luca's team penetrated the FBI's systems, finding exactly what we needed. Emails showing Morrison had authorized the assassination attempt, budget authorizations for the shell company, evidence of illegal entrapment. On the 7th day, we met with Morrison's supervisor, a stone-faced woman named Director Chen, who listened to our evidence with growing fury. "This is extremely serious," she said, studying the documents. "If what you're alleging is true, it's all true." I kept my voice steady. "Agent Morrison tried to have me killed to force my cooperation. He's been running an illegal operation, and I have recordings of him admitting to entrapment." I played the audio, Morrison's voice explaining his strategy, bragging about manipulating me into the wire. Dante's tech people had cleaned it up perfectly. Director Chen's expression could have frozen fire. "Agent Morrison is suspended effective immediately pending investigation. Miss Chen, Mr. Salvatore, you have my apologies and my assurance this will be handled." Walking out of the FBI building, I felt simultaneously powerful and sick. "We just destroyed a federal agent's career," I said quietly. "We just protected ourselves from a corrupt agent's illegal operation." Dante corrected. "There's a difference." "Maybe." But the lines kept blurring. That night, back at the penthouse, Dante pulled me into his arms. "The Castellanos called for a meeting. They want to negotiate terms. They know we won against the feds, and they're ready to acknowledge the territory is ours. So it's over. This war is. There will be others." His eyes met mine. "There are always others. Can you live with that?" I thought about the last 2 months, the violence, the fear, the moral compromises. The power, the purpose, the love that felt like drowning and flying simultaneously. Can you live with having someone who questions you? Who won't just blindly follow? His smile was real and warm. "I'd be disappointed if you did anything else." I kissed him, pouring everything into it, acceptance and fear and love and choice. When we broke apart, his hand slid into my hair. "Come with me to the meeting tomorrow. Stand beside me as my equal, my partner. Not just your lawyer, never just my lawyer." His voice dropped to something intimate and fierce. "My queen, if you want the title." I thought about Morrison's offer, about safety and normalcy. Then I thought about the man holding me, dangerous and damaged, and offering me a throne in his dark kingdom. "Yes," I whispered. "I want it all." His kiss was victory and promise and beginning. Tomorrow we'd face the Castellanos. Tonight we'd celebrate surviving. And I'd finally accepted the truth. I wasn't a victim of Dante's world. I was a willing architect of it. The Castellano meeting took place in a restaurant they owned. Neutral ground with armed men on both sides and tension thick enough to cut. I walked in beside Dante wearing a black dress that cost more than my old car and heels that could double as weapons. His hand rested on the small of my back, possessive and protective. Dominic Castellano stood as we approached, his eyes assessing me with new respect. "Salvatore, and the woman who outsmarted the FBI. Impressidaria Chen," I introduced myself, voice steady. "Mr. Salvatore's legal counsel and partner." "Partner." Dominic's smile was sharp. "Interesting title. I heard you were also the one who structured the shipping agreement that's making us all rich." "I ensure all our agreements are mutually beneficial," I said carefully. "When all parties operate in good faith, and when they don't." Dante's voice was silk over steel. "Then we remind them why good faith is preferable." The meeting was a delicate dance, negotiating territory, distribution rights, profit shares. I caught traps in their proposals, suggested language that protected our interests, and watched 3 hardened criminals grudgingly accept my revisions. By the end, we had a treaty. Not peace, there was never true peace in this world, but a working arrangement that benefited everyone. As we stood to leave, Dominic offered his hand. "You've got a good one, Salvatore. Smart enough to be dangerous, pretty enough to be distracting. Lethal combination." Dante's smile was pure possession. "I know." In the car, his hand found mine. "You were magnificent." I was terrified. Fear and power aren't mutually exclusive. He raised my hand to his lips. "You're learning." 3 months later, I stood in Dante's study reviewing contracts for our latest acquisition, a legitimate one this time, tech company with massive potential. My law degree had been completed online, my bar exam scheduled for next month. Everything was falling into place. But some nights I still woke from nightmares about bullets and blood. Dante found me on one of those nights, standing at the penthouse windows watching the city that had become my kingdom and my cage, still having second thoughts. His arms circled my waist from behind. "Always." I leaned into him. "I'm complicit in crimes. I've helped you build an empire that operates outside the law. Some days I can't believe this is my life. Would you change it?" I turned in his arms, meeting those dark eyes that still made my breath catch. "No, and that terrifies me." "Good." His smile was tender and fierce. "The day you stop being scared is the day you become careless, and I need you sharp, always so romantic." I teased, but my heart was full. "I love you, Aria Chen." His voice dropped to something vulnerable. "Every brilliant moral, compromised part of you. You made me better, not good but better, and you made this life bearable. Just bearable. All right. Extraordinary." He kissed me softly. "Marry me." The words hung between us like a gunshot. "What? Marry me?" He pulled back enough to meet my eyes. "Be my wife, my partner in everything. Build this empire with me. Scare me with your brilliance and your conscience for the rest of our lives." Tears burned my throat. "Dante, marriage in your world makes you untouchable, protected by every oath and bond I have. His hands framed my face. But more than that, it makes you mine in a way that can't be broken. And I want that, want you, forever. I thought about the girl I'd been, broke, desperate, serving drinks and dreaming of something more. I thought about the woman I'd become, powerful, dangerous, complicit in darkness but no longer apologizing for ambition. This isn't a fairy tale, I whispered. You're not a prince, and I'm not innocent, no. His smile was dark and honest. I'm a king of criminals, and you're a queen who knows exactly what she's choosing. We're building something real and dangerous in ours. Say yes, Arya. Choose this. Choose us. The answer rose from somewhere deep and certain. Yes. His kiss was celebration and claim and promise. When we broke apart, he slid a ring onto my finger, a massive diamond flanked by black sapphires. Dark and beautiful and expensive. Welcome to the family, future Mrs. Salvatore. I laughed through tears. I'm keeping my name. Of course you are. He pulled me close, and we stood together watching our city, dangerous and glittering, in ours. Wouldn't expect anything less from my queen. 6 months later, the wedding was private, just Dante's inner circle and a few trusted friends. No white dress, no church. Instead, I wore midnight blue and we exchanged vows in the penthouse at sunset. The city spread below us like tribute. I promised to question you when you're wrong. I said, to stand beside you when you're right, and to love you through all the darkness and light between. I promised to protect you. Dante's voice was rough with emotion. To trust you with my empire and my heart, and to never take for granted the gift of your choice. Marco, officiating with barely concealed amusement, pronounced us married. The kiss tasted like victory and home. That night, lying in Dante's arms, my husband's arms, I thought about the contract that had started everything. The trap I'd spotted, the warning I'd given, the moment that changed both our lives. Excuse me, sir, this contract is a trap. I murmured, smiling at the memory. Dante's laugh was low against my hair. Best trap I ever walked into. No regrets. Only that I didn't find you sooner. He pulled me closer. What about you? Still scared? Outside, the city pulsed with life and danger and possibility. Inside, I was wrapped in the arms of a man who'd shown me power and darkness and devastating honesty. I'd traded safety for sovereignty, morality for agency, simplicity for a love that burned like fire. I admitted, but alive. Really, truly alive. Then we're doing it right. His kiss was soft, reverent. Welcome home, Mrs. Chen Salvatore. Just Chen, remember? My brilliant, stubborn queen. His smile pressed against my temple. I wouldn't have you any other way. And as I drifted to sleep in the arms of my dangerous, devoted husband, I realized I'd finally found what I'd been searching for in those law school textbooks and desperate nights. Not justice, not safety, not even power, but purpose, partnership, a love dark enough to match my ambition and honest enough to call it what it was. I'd walked into Dante Salvatore's trap with my eyes wide open, and I'd never been happier to be caught.